Hey, welcome back, everyone. Some of the most important lessons we've learned or that we carry with us didn't come from a whiteboard or a handbook. They came from those moments where something broke, something failed, or something went sideways, and we were forced to figure it out. Not later, not in theory, but right then. And once you've had enough of those moments, you start thinking differently. You stop assuming things will go smoothly. You stop assuming you'll get a second chance to react. You start building your life in a way where you're always ready, whether or not the first plan works out. Now, I'm not just talking about day-to-day or high-risk operations. I'm also talking about how you think about your life beyond the uniform. Make sure that you're considering contingencies. Your next career, that may not come wrapped in a pretty box with a bow and everything checked off on your wish list. And your life post-transition, it might not go according to your original vision. But that doesn't mean you're off track. It just means you better not be banking everything will come out on a single outcome. In our world, we don't roll out without extras. Extra radios, extra tourniquets, extra magazines. And that's not because we're paranoid, but because we're smart and we're prepared. So why would your transition plan be any different? Why would your career strategy be built on just one hope or one version of success? And if there's one thing I want to get across today, it's that options don't make you uncertain. They make you unshakable. So with that, let's get into round 80 of the tactical transition tips. This time the topic is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. For the close range group, those of you looking at your transition right away or you're less than a year out, always hunt in pairs. Having just one target leaves you exposed and vulnerable. Double your direction, double your options, and you double your control. For the medium range group, those of you looking at your transition in 5 years or so, build multiple competencies. Strengthen your skill sets to help you in this career, but also carry over to your next. This way you'll have more options and open more doors when the time comes. And for the long range group, those of you just starting your careers, you've got at least a decade before your transition. Grow 2 mentorship paths. Learn from those who do this career the right way, but at the same time, also find people who can help you develop your civilian side while you're still in this life. Close range group. You're on the doorstep. Your hand's about to knock on the door. You're thinking about where to move, what job to apply for, or maybe just how to even start the whole process. And let me guess, you've got one option in mind, one job you've been eyeballing, one direction that feels right to you, or one company where someone's told you they could get your foot in the door. This plan is simple. It's easy to focus on. But in a way, it's a trap. You need to be thinking, always hunt in pairs. This isn't about uncertainty or being scared. It's about being smart. It's about protecting your peace of mind when everything else is shifting. The same way you never cleared a building alone is the same way you shouldn't approach this phase of your life alone or with a one-track mind. Let me put it like this. Hoping one job works out is not a plan. It's a wish. When you hunt in pairs, when you pursue at least 2 opportunities at the same time, you're giving yourself control. You're giving yourself space. And honestly, you're giving yourself a little bit of dignity because now you're not just begging for someone to say yes. You're choosing where you want to go based on fit, not desperation. Now, make no mistake, I want you to start by choosing a primary target, that job that feels like that's me. You should be focusing on what you truly want. But then you also need to pick a secondary target that's also viable, still interesting, still aligned with your skill set, even if it's not your first choice. This is not lowering your standards. You're increasing your odds. This gives you momentum. This episode is brought to you by Grind, spelled G-R-N-D. Grind isn't just a brand, it's a mindset. Started by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is for those who wake up hungry, train with intensity, and chase their goals relentlessly. Whether you're in the field, in the gym, or grinding towards your next mission in life, Grind delivers performance gear that keeps up. This is American-made toughness with purpose. So wear what you live. Go check out the show notes for a link to their website and a promo code for 15% off your purchase. Okay, let's jump back in. Here's the key. Don't just apply to one and then wait. Apply to a second one. Talk to both. Interview with both. That momentum is what saves you from sitting around, hoping that someone doesn't ghost you. And I get the pushback. You don't want to look like you're shotgunning it. You think it looks like you're uncommitted by applying to more than one at the same time. That's your inexperience talking. Professionals apply to multiple jobs all the time. Recruiters know this. Hiring managers understand this. The only people who freeze themselves out of good opportunities are the ones who think they need to wait on a no from this one before they apply to the next one. That's a strategy basically for failure. Every operation you've ever been part of, there's always been a primary and a secondary, ingress and egress point. It's because we expect contingencies. Your transition is the same way. And it goes deeper than just the roles you apply for. It also applies to the types of organizations too. Don't box yourself into just one lane. You might be applying only to, say, big corporations because they feel safe. But what about mid-sized companies where you've got room to grow? What about government jobs? Small startups? Better yet, how about roles in industries you haven't even explored yet? Each of those brings a different culture, a different pace, a different pay scale, and opportunities. If you apply across a couple of those sectors, you're not diluting your aim, you're sharpening your clarity. Remember, for every primary job you apply for a secondary job also. You want to have multiple options to potentially say yes or no to. Now, let's talk about your resume. You've heard this 1,000 times. Tailor your resume. Sure, but you need to do more than just swap out keywords. Build 2 or 3 versions of your resume, each one targeted to a different kind of role or a different industry. One resume might lean into your logistics or your operations background. Another might highlight your thinking ability or your investigative experiences. Another one might cover your ability to lead, especially in crisis. It's the same person, it's the same story, just told in different languages. Because the way you talk to a hospital admin team isn't the same way you talk to a defense contractor or a tech startup. And here's a little bonus. Building multiple resumes helps you discover things about yourself you might have forgotten or that you didn't think to value. When you reframe your own experience through different lenses, you start realizing just how much you've actually done. You stop underselling your time in uniform and start owning it. All right. So you've applied to multiple jobs. You've put together multiple resumes. What happens if several jobs come through? Say you're fortunate and you're now staring at multiple offers. What then? Be deliberate, be professional, be respectful. Whichever one you turn down, do it with class. Say thank you. Express real gratitude. But most important, keep the door open. Because that offer that you decline today might be the one you have to circle back to in 6 months. So say things like, I hope we can stay connected and that our paths may cross again down the line. Here's one last layer to this. Hunting in pairs also means it reduces your anxiety. It's hard to be anxious when you're in motion, when you're having conversations, attending interviews, refining your resumes. Getting feedback and feeling like there's continual progress helps you. That's because it becomes a stabilizer. You stop seeing transition as a one-shot moment that decides your future, and you start seeing it as a process, a strategic operation, something you can command, something that you can drive. So here's what I challenge you to do this week. Pick 2 job paths. even if they're both ones you've never considered. Then start pulling the threads. Find those job postings. Reach out to contacts. Update your resume for each of those. Transition is your operation. And like every operation, you wouldn't roll out alone. And you sure as hell wouldn't roll out with only one option. Or no contingency plan. So don't do that here. Always hunt in pairs and watch how much more control you'll feel. Medium range group. You're not out the door. Yet. You've got 5-ish years left. Yeah, you're not on final approach, but you've started checking your instruments. You're starting to prepare for landing. You've thought about what comes next. Maybe you've even looked at a couple job postings. Talked to some people who have already transitioned out. But here's what happens right around this time. The urgency kind of ebbs and flows. Yeah, you've still got time, but that time feels like it might be a buffer. Remember, this part of your career is not a pause. It's actually your prime time. This is where the important prep work needs to happen. Because you're still operational, you still have access to training, you still have influence in your current role, and you're not weighed down by the stress of your transition. Now's the time to build multiple competencies. And I don't mean just adding certifications for the sake of it. I'm talking about stacking real, useful skills that help you both now and later. Think of it like building dual-use tools. Things that help you perform better in your current role, but also position you for the most opportunities in the next one. Think redundancy with purpose. But before we continue, let's take a quick break. Sponsorship for this episode comes from Brothers in Arms USA. This veteran-owned brand delivers premium clothing and accessories that are 100% American-made. Every item reflects the values of service, discipline, respect, and honors those who have given everything. It's gear built for patriots, warriors, and anyone who stands for something. Go check out the show notes for a link to their website and a promo code for 20% off your purchase. All right, let's get back to it. So, to build multiple competencies, start with a simple development roadmap. Map out where you are today and where you realistically want to be after you leave service. Then start designing the bridge between the two. What are your gaps? Do you need better public speaking skills? A deeper understanding of budgets or strategic planning? Do you need to get more fluent in civilian tools? Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint. How are you with AI? Do you need experience leading outside your unit? Now, you don't need to go try to fix or add all of this at once. But if you identify it now, you've given yourself time to fill those gaps without rushing. And here's a key point. Don't just add more to the skills you already have. Build skills that translate. You might be great at incident command, but can you talk about that in terms of team coordination, resource allocation, or stakeholder management? Can you turn your tactical planning experience into language that resonates in a boardroom? You already have value, but the way you communicate it, that's a skill in itself. And the more tools that you build now, ideally, that bridge that translation gap, the easier your transition will be. Next, I want you to audit your time. How much of your work week is spent putting out fires? How much time do you spend on tasks that just keep the machine running? I'm assuming probably a lot. But how much of your week is carved out for growth? Growth being your personal development, reading, listening, learning. You need to prioritize your personal schedule. Intentionally invest in leveling yourself up today for tomorrow. Read something that sharpens your civilian edge. Have conversations with a mentor or somebody who can help you. Learn from someone in a different department. Do that for 6 months and see what happens. You'll start speaking differently, thinking more strategically. You'll become more promotable now, and you'll start laying bricks for your transition. Another thing you can do, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Request assignments that challenge you, but also prepare you. Look, at this point in your career, you've proven yourself. People know you can lead a team. They know you're competent, but being good in your bubble isn't the same as being ready for the one that's coming next. So don't wait for someone to offer you the next challenge. Go ask for it. Volunteer to lead a group on some sort of new policy or objective. If you have access, take a role, preferably in a leadership role, at some multi-agency project. Doing these things aren't just resume bullets. They force you into a broader perspective. They teach you how to collaborate across units. They give you language and understanding of planning, group communication, and team execution, not just being the doer on the team. For those of you already doing much or all of this, add more to your plate. Think larger scale. Think more responsibility. Another tactic, which is more powerful than you might realize, host civilian speakers or job events at your organization. These don't have to be formal. Invite someone who left several years ago and is now working in some different field. Have an executive from a local company come talk about what they look for. Have a project manager explain what their job is and how it works. Even if 5 people show up, it's worth it. From your organization's perspective, you're adding value to the team. But what you're learning is what matters outside our walls. You'll build relationships that might open doors later. That kind of initiative gets noticed. It builds your influence and your identity beyond this job. Let's talk about education, though, for a second. Right now, you still have access to training classes and certifications. Maybe some of you even have access to tuition assistance. Use it all. And don't just chase training that you've already been to a million times. Pick something that improves you and your organization today, but that also looks good on paper later. Here's another added bonus. When your team sees that you're still trying to grow yourself, you're not just operating on cruise mode. They get better. You create ripples because that's building your legacy. This phase, these next 5 years or so, is where people either coast or they build. So let me ask you, what would happen if you set aside just 1 hour this week to start? One project to request? One conversation to initiate? What if you looked at your role and asked, how can I stretch this into something more? Those small decisions today create big outcomes later. You've still got time, but that doesn't mean you have to waste it. Start building multiple competencies now, not because you're leaving, but because it makes you more valuable while you're still here, and you'll be more prepared for whatever's next. That's how you eliminate panic and protect your peace of mind. Long-range group. Maybe you're just a few years in. Maybe you're on, take that back. Hopefully you're on that steady climb towards promotion. You're building something solid. In theory, you don't need a resume. And you might not have that much to actually add to one yet. You've probably heard me say this before. You never know what might happen. Even though you're focused on today, this career will end. The uniform will come off. I hope it's by your choice, but it could be the job's, could be life's, but it will happen. And when it does, how you've prepared will shape how you walk into that next chapter. So here's the tip. Grow 2 mentorship paths. One where you're learning from those killing it in this career, these careers, and those who can help you build your civilian side. And not because mentorship is a checkbox or a leadership requirement, because it's a highly underrated part of your career. It shapes your identity. expands your influence, and keeps you grounded. Think of it like a record. Yes, you're probably too young, but records have two sides. Side A, this was usually the hit song, the most important song of the record. That's your career right now. You don't necessarily have to chase the highest ranking person in the room. Start looking for people who do the job in a way that you respect. They've got character, the kind of person who makes good decisions under pressure, who treats people right even when no one's looking, who's steady, disciplined, well-spoken, and who leads without having to tell everyone they're in charge. Those people are the ones you should learn from. That's who you should ask questions of. Not because they're perfect, but because they're consistent. Watch how they structure their day. Watch what they say no to. Ask them what they've learned the hard way. Those little details become your playbook. Not all at once, but over time. Trident Coffee isn't your average brew. Veteran-owned and mission-driven. Trident crafts coffees that taste amazing, hot or cold, without the bitterness. But it's more than great coffee. It's functional fuel for your brain and your body. Loaded with MCT oil, lion's mane, and electrolytes, it's about wellness, connection, and community. Trident Coffee is where passion meets purpose. So cast off the lines and move full steam ahead. Your tribe is waiting. Go check out the show notes for a link to their website and a promo code for 20% off your purchase. Okay, we're back at it. As much as mentorship in this career is important, at the same time, the side B of the record, that's your long-term career. Seek mentorship beyond this world. It's easy to fall into the trap of only learning from people who are like us, but growth lives beyond our perimeter. Find people in business, education, entrepreneurs. Bottom line, find people who can offer you different perspectives. Yes, you should go seek out those who came from our careers. They've transitioned out, they're doing something else. But don't limit yourself to just fellow veterans or former first responders. When you stretch your circle, you stretch your perspective. You start to understand how your skills translate outside this world. That's what makes you adaptable. You've seen other areas of responsibility. You've gathered tools. They don't rely on just one system, one structure, or one job title. So here's something else you need to understand. Mentorship can have a shelf life. Just because someone's a mentor today doesn't mean they have to be your mentor forever. Take time once a year to reflect on your circle. Ask yourself, am I still being challenged? Am I still learning from them? Are the people that I'm listening to still modeling the kind of behavior of the person that I want to become? If not, it's time to recalibrate. That's not disloyal, that's smart. Growth requires reevaluation. And high performers keep refining their inputs all the time. Here's another piece to the puzzle, and also something you'll hear me say a lot. It's not only about taking from others. You should always be giving back as well. You're a resource to make those around you better. And before you tune that out, before you think that I'm not senior enough, I don't care if you've been on the job for 3 years or 30 years. Someone is watching you. Someone is looking up to you. Someone would benefit from you sharing what you've learned. Remember, mentorship doesn't mean giving perfect advice. It just means being available, but being honest, helping someone avoid the potholes you've already stepped in. It's about helping someone else grow. But in that process, you grow too, because the more you teach what you've learned, the more you understand your own growth. You start seeing patterns. You start identifying habits, and you hold yourself to a higher standard because someone else is looking to you for guidance. That's what leadership looks like. So here's your immediate mission. I want you to identify 2 people that you want to learn from. one from this side of the fence and one from the other side. Initiate the conversations. Ask questions. Let these relationships grow over time. Because a decade from now, you won't remember every operation, but you will remember the people who shaped you. And don't forget, think of the ones you helped shape. One last component I want to make clear. Mentorship is identity insurance. You won't always be in this job, but if you spent the years mentoring others, learning from real leaders, exchanging ideas across industries, you won't be stuck in one mindset. You won't be boxed into one way of doing things. And that's critical, because if you ever get blindsided by injury, burnout, life circumstances, you'll already have a support system. You'll already have people who know you beyond your uniform, and you'll already know who you are beyond just this career. And when the day comes to hang it up, you won't be panicking. You'll be proud. You'll know that your career wasn't just about doing the job. It was about building something that lasts. So grow 2 mentorship paths, because you're not just building for today. You're preparing for long after the uniform comes off. So to close out this episode, maybe everything feels stable right now. Maybe you've got a plan that's still holding together, but the ground doesn't always shake before it gives. But when it does, when life pulls you into that next phase, you'll want more than just one way forward. You'll want options, flexibility, leverage. Not because you're uncertain, but because you're prepared. Prepared to keep moving when the original plan stalls out. This isn't about uncertainty. It's about strategy. And strategy means building systems that hold even when the first one breaks. That's why 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Thank you for taking the time to listen to or watch the episode. If you have any comments or questions, please reach out, either on social media or send me an email. All the links are down in the show notes. I'd love to hear from any of you, all of you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to it on YouTube. And if you would, please leave a rating. The more ratings the podcast gets, the more the podcast gets recommended to people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter.